Hello everybody, here we are today talking about the fact that Winnipeg Jets head coach Rick Bowness has announced his retirement from coaching at age 69. So before we get into that, please make sure to subscribe if you're new to me or hockey, whatever the case may be. That being said, let's get on into it. So Bowness's coaching career actually goes back well before I was even born, as he ended up being the head coach for, ironically, the Winnipeg Jets for a short time in the 88-89 season. And in those 28 games, things didn't go particularly well. His next stop as a head coach would be with the Boston Bruins sometime around the 92-93 season, I believe. And he takes his Bruins team in his first year with him to the Eastern Conference Final, where they end up going to get swept by the Pittsburgh Penguins. Penguins won the Cup in 92 and 93, so, it kind of makes sense there. And he ends up getting fired despite making it to the conference final. And his next head coaching stop is in New York. So that time with the Islanders was a little bit weird because Mike Mulberry was the GM as well as the head coach, I believe. And so Mulberry brings him in and he is going to be the head coach. So he takes over that job, and then the following season he is coaching the team for about 60 games. They're not in great playoff positioning, so Mulberry ends up firing him and taking on the role towards the end of the year. So Mulberry is the head coach before he's there and then is going to be the head coach after he's there. Just kind of a weird situation, but if you remember the Islanders from around that time, things were kind of weird with them. He would go on to be an assistant coach with the Arizona Coyotes. Rest in peace, of course, to the Coyotes. But in that time, he goes on to be the interim head coach for a bit, as about 20 games he's able to coach them. But they end up just getting 2 wins in that time. But when you win 2 games in 20, they're not going to be knocking on your door to come back, unfortunately for him. He is able to stay with them as an assistant coach and then eventually joins the Vancouver Canucks, as they are about to go on a pretty good run themselves over this course. They never won a championship, but they were able to go to the Stanley Cup Final once. They are a team that wins the President's Trophy, just all around a team, able to put together a nice run where they get a lot of wins. And then, of course, after a while, ends up moving on from them, or I should say is fired, where he travels to Tampa Bay. Guess what? They were pretty good for a bit there too, as I believe he coached there from 2013 through 2018, would have been the 2013-14 season that it started. And of course, in that time as well, the Lightning make it to the Stanley Cup Final. Either way, they have a loss to the Washington Capitals in 2018, and Bowness is fired from them. He then heads over to Dallas, and eventually during the 2019-20 season would go on to see himself named the interim head coach. And despite all the craziness that happened in that entire season for every team, especially the last few months, you would see the Dallas Stars go to the Stanley Cup Final, where they would eventually lose to, ironically, the Tampa Bay Lightning. Still, to be able to get there and make it to the final was something that the Stars were dreaming of, as this team was just stuck in the mud when it came to making the playoffs and winning in the postseason. So that's good. The following season, he would be back after being the interim head coach as the permanent head coach. They wouldn't make the playoffs, but he does get a 3rd season to stick with the team, this one being a full season, and they push the Calgary Flames to the brink of elimination, but unfortunately lose in 7 games to the Flames. That was a crazy series, as it was the arrival of Ottinger on the national stage. But after that first round loss to the Flames, he ends up stepping down as the head coach for the Stars, and you're not really sure what's going to happen here, as he takes on a job for the Winnipeg Jets, surprisingly, as the head coach, not this season, but the season prior. And in that run, they end up making it to the wild card, or as the second wild card into the playoffs, where they lose to the eventual champions, the Vegas Golden Knights. And then this season, again, you were kind of wondering if there was going to be a lot of drama, if Bowness was even going to be there, as it seemed like there was just a lot of friction. The Jets actually put a lot of things together and are able to have one of their best seasons in franchise history, but unfortunately fall to the Colorado Avalanche in 5 games. And today he has announced his retirement from coaching in the league. I'm not exactly sure what's happening here, as I knew that his wife had a seizure earlier in the season that caused him to miss some games. And really, at the end of all this, it comes down to family, right? So I'm hoping that he and his family are okay and are just in a good spot where he can enjoy retirement, as he is, nearly 70 years old and has been coaching, like 10 plus years before I was even alive. So with this ends a chapter of his coaching career. And I know a lot of people are going to look at this and say, well, he only had 310 wins in his entire career. That's not incredible. and he coached multiple decades and coached a lot of different teams, but a lot of it was on an interim basis, and the Ottawa Senators at the time weren't exactly world beaters, so you can't really look at this as what it started with. I think a lot of people, especially now, will look more about how it ended, as Stars fans will probably remember him more fondly. Winnipeg fans, not exactly sure how that'll go, but as he gets an opportunity with these teams, they're able to see playoff appearances, as in 5 times that he is the head coach, his team's going to the playoffs, and he's able to go to the Stanley Cup final on 1 occasion. They didn't win it, but they battled hard, and now we get to see who Winnipeg is going to go out there and try to get as a head coach. And that is interesting too, because nearly half of the league has seen their head coaches either fired or, retire, or something like that. So we will see how all that pans out, whether it be a veteran head coach who wants to take on this team that looks to be competitive, or a new head coach that's just trying to sink his teeth in the league. Not exactly sure that'll be the route that Winnipeg goes here. But yeah, that is all for this. Hoping that Bowness and his family, again, can have a good time in retirement. What are your thoughts on Rick Bowness? Let me know your thoughts down below in the comments. Also, please make sure to like this video if you enjoyed it. Subscribe if you're new. Everybody stay safe. Have a great night. And you go love hockey, all right. Goodbye, Brigadiers and Brigadettes. This is your captain signing off. Have a great night.